Rev up your engines! All right, Honda Accord, talking they last so long. Well, here's an 03. The original family who owns it still owns it. It's still going strong. So lately, Honda's had problems. Some of the bearings on their engine are going loose. But this particular one, an 03, these things can run forever. Now, you can't blame the little dinks on the car. That's just what happens when you drive a car that long. Now, it's still got the original engine, the original transmission. They work fine. Going to have to change the air compressor. It's broken for the air conditioning. They're going to do that when it warms up. That's really the only weak point of these cars. Back in the day, Honda, unlike Toyota with nip and denso, Honda has always bought air conditioning compressors from various companies. They've always had problems with the compressors breaking down. It's just something that happens to an awful lot of Hondas. And take my advice, if you're ever going to replace it, don't under any condition buy a rebuilt one. They're junk. Buy a brand new one. And strangely enough, a lot of these Chinese companies make decent brand new compressors that fit them. So, if you're going to do that, put a new one on. Don't mess with the rebuilt one, because most of the time they either don't work long, they don't work at all, or they work at like 30-40% capacity. I've had so many people put them on, they'll come to me, Scotty, I put a compressor on, but it's not blowing very cold. Then I just explain, you did it right, but your compressor was rebuilt by an idiot, and it only has 30% of the power now, so it's never going to work unless you buy another one. This has one of the best engines that Honda ever made. By far. It's a 2.4 liter inline 4, has a timing chain, not a belt. And look, back in 2003, you don't get no cheap plastic parts on the engine. Look, they're all made out of metal. Try that a new one, it's all plastic. And they say, oh, it's to save weight. Baloney. Right? So an intake manifold, maybe it weighs 2 pounds more metal than plastic. The metal one will last forever. The plastic one will warp. You'll have problems with them, but they're infinitely cheaper to make a plastic one. They injection mold them, chunk chunk, break off the tabs, bolt them on. Metal stuff, you got to pour them, polish them. It's a much more expensive deal. That's why the modern cars are all plastic and won't hold up as long as these things. It's fuel injected, but it's port fuel injected. Much simpler system. It does have coil on plug, all the modern systems to it. Now, they came here from the other end of Tennessee up and down hills, and he got 33 miles a gallon on the highway. Not too shabby for a car that's as zippy as one of these things is. They're pretty zippy cars. This age, and it still gets 33 miles a gallon. They knew what they were doing when they built these things. Now, as we go inside, we can see the best of all worlds. It's made in Japan. The seats are all still pretty good. Got a few stains. Of course, it didn't come with this. This was added on. A young man owns it now, and he's upgraded. Hey, you can upgrade things. Now, even though it's got 182,000 miles on it, doesn't burn oil, shifts, runs good, but he did say to check engine lights on, so let's check that out. We'll plug in our scan tool, do an auto ID, auto detect. It's an 03 Honda Accord, and we're gonna analyze it. Do a full scan. While it's scanning it, we'll look around. Hey, it's got a nice sunroof, simple gear shift. A lot of space there. Wood grain it. Yeah, this is a pretty snazzy car in its day. Look, all three. It's still got control for the speakers, cruise control on the steering column. It's all three, so it takes a while. We're only 53% done. It'll take a while to scan it all because they're slower computers. She's changed the screen and everything here, so this multiplex integrated control unit is going to have codes because that's all been taken out, so we'll ignore those. No power window codes because, hey, they all go up and down, who cares? Bunch of stupid codes, communication, the power window stuff, battery voltage fail. That's, you know, at some point in time you change the battery, we're going to reset all that. Now, the only thing that really means anything is the oxygen sensor heater circuit has a malfunction, which is often typical on these. This is a Tennessee car, so it doesn't do emissions testing, so you really don't care, but generally what happens to these are the oxygen sensor has a heater, so when you start the car, it doesn't pollute much the first 40 seconds of driving, minute, whatever, because it heats the oxygen sensor up with the heater. Those short out. You could buy one and put it in. The light will probably go out, but it'll still run exactly the same. Heater circuit malfunction. It's almost always the heater breaks down in the oxygen sensor. You want to replace it. This is a 4-cylinder one. It's the sensor that's right next to the engine on the exhaust header. Not a hard job to do if you want, but here here in Tennessee, we don't care. It's getting good gas mileage, it runs fine, so we'll just leave it alone. We're racing them all now. Your giggles will probably all come back, especially the integrated control unit, because it's a different unit that the car came with. So let's start her up and look at live data. Live data, and we'll analyze it. Black's good, other colors are bad. We'll start looking at the general data. The airflow sensor, look at that, it's almost perfect. 0 is perfect, it's perfect, it's perfect. Now it's a little bit off. 0, 1, 3, so this thing running great. Lambda's perfect, 18.7 is perfect, it's perfect. Oh, it's off a tiny bit, ooh, that is perfect. Hey, for a car that's got all these miles, it's rather amazing. Park advance is good, knock sensor is good. For spin, first thing I notice, it is smooth. It idles smooth, even though it's an old car and a 4-cylinder. And away we go. Like I say, hey, these are relatively zippy cars. We're going to take it to our little drag strip. We'll see how it handles. Pretty quiet. It's cold outside. Cars are noisier when it's cold, but it's not making any particularly bad noises. We take the curve. It's got nice handling ability. That's how they sold these Accords. They're zippy, fun to drive cars. Even though this thing is now 21 years old, it has 182,000 miles on it. And the tranny still shifts like a dream. You get on the road, like I say, it runs perfectly fine. We'll test out the brakes. The brakes work perfectly fine. The ABS still works. Well, look, nobody's coming. Well, somebody's coming. Good thing I took a second look. It's a lesson for people. Always take a second look, especially when you're looking down a hill and people come flying off the top of it. Here we go. Nobody's behind us. Make sure nobody. Stop on the gas. Hey, nice pickup. Smooth shift. Hey, it goes fine. And when you're just too lean, say 48 miles an hour, you need to accelerate, stop on the gas. Downshifted good. Hey, this is why I like real geared transmission. This is a real geared transmission. Had this had been a CVT, you'd hear that engine whining a lot higher, spinning, and not accelerating as fast. That's the advantage of an actual automatic transmission with gears. Hey, this thing's still getting 33 miles a gallon, decent gas mileage, but look, it's got response, and it doesn't have to over-rev. Nice acceleration, no over-revving, smoothness, everything you really want in a car. Check engine light came back on because the oxygen sensor heater's broken, and it'll just keep coming on until you replace it. In this case, it doesn't make one iota difference to the running. It runs fine, gets 33 miles a gallon. That's just through the first few seconds of operation for anti-pollution rules. And they don't inspect cars in Tennessee for that, so you don't care. If you notice, the maintenance light was on, so all I did was push this to get to trip A, and then held it down, and then voila, it's off. You just have to push the reset button here. Now it turned itself off. Doesn't mean anything. Just comes on every 15,000 miles. Just driving this thing around, you'd have no idea the thing's 21 years old and has 182,000 miles. Except at the top of the steering wheel here is rough, and I would wrap it with a leather wrap like I did my Matrix. I would get an actual leather steering cover, the ones that you sew on yourself. Then they last for years and years, and they're more comfortable. I don't like the roughness here. Hey, it still rides smooth. It's still corner smooth. This age and this mileage, they knew how to build these things back in the day. There's no arguing that. And amazingly enough, it's still got the original struts on it. It's been in the family the whole time, and it still rides that good. That's how overbuilt these things used to be. They didn't have a bunch of computerized crap. It doesn't have a turbocharger. Hence, it's old. It doesn't burn any oil like the newer ones can. There's a lot of reasons you'd want to drive an older car like this that's still got a ton of life in it. And really, when you look at it today, it still isn't a bad looking car. You know? The only thing I'd do would be I'd get a leather steering cover for the steering wheel, and I would lace the whole thing on, and then it would be a lot more comfortable inside driving and holding on without that worn out part on the top. But that's about it. Since I live in Tennessee, I wouldn't bother changing the oxygen sensor either. I'd just drive it as it is. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Ray 1152 says, my car clicks when I try to start it. It's a 2011 Acura TSX. It's got 84,000 miles. Sometimes when I try to start it, it just clicks and all the lights go out like the battery's dead. And I tried a couple times, it starts. Am I right in thinking it's a starter motor? Okay, it could be, but you're saying all the lights go out. Unless your starter motor is totally shorted out. If the motor itself isn't working, you'll turn the key, the lights won't go dim. It'll just sit there and it'll just go click, click, or it'll do nothing, right? Your problem could easily be a loose connection. Take the battery terminals off, clean the battery, put it back on, make sure they're super tight. That could be the whole problem. Check all the wires coming off the battery where they bolt on to the body, the ground wires. Make sure, take them off, clean them with sandpaper, get them whistle clean, bolt them back on. Make sure where all the connectors are, disconnect them, see if they're green. Green's corrosion inside. Clean them off, plug them back in. It could easily be just a bad connector. Now, if it's not that, then your starter would really be badly shorted, because normally, if it's a starter on a Honda, it'll just go click, click, or nothing, but everything doesn't go dim. It's because the starter doesn't work anymore. Unless the starter is extremely shorted out, when you turn it on to make the starter go, it's draining so much power, it takes everything off. That, more often, is, like I say, an electrical short. In the terminals aren't tight, or there's dirt or corrosion on one of the connectors. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.